the SM Media Podcast Network.
Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the SM Media Horse Racing Show. I'm Scott McPike. It is always a pleasure to be your host, and we are going to take a wee look back on a couple of the kind of grade Group 1s over the past couple of weeks. It's been fairly quiet, but there's been enough happening, and there's a massive week coming up next week in both UK and Ireland, so we're going to cover that in a bit of detail as well. To join me as always, it is a pleasure to welcome from the Scottish Daily Mail, Callum McClurkin.
Hi there. Yeah, just quite a quiet couple of weeks after Royal Ascot, but still the Irish Oaks, July Cup, things like that, and then we're rattling into Goodwood and Galway and the King Jaws this weekend. So things again, I think start to ramp up. I think you're going to get your better horses back out quite soon, and yes, particularly Field of Gold is going to be pretty exciting, and I think a lot of people will be on weather watch for the week ahead for Goodwood and Galway. It's a nice kind of mix of different styles in different countries, really.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go back a couple of weeks, obviously, to the Newmarket July Festival. We saw a couple of decent horses before we touch on the kind of big Group 1s. We saw Venetian Sun follow up our victory as well. Had to work hard for it, but she's definitely a horse that's going in the right direction.
Scrambled in, probably a little bit disappointing in the way that, on the figures, she should have been, well clear of them. And yeah, I mean, she looked like a kind of bona fide Guineas contender, really. And there she kind of clung on, suggesting that she might not get a mile. So there may be a bit betwixt and between with her. Something like the Chiefly Part would be obvious. He's campaigned and still go up in grade, but it was maybe just feeling the effects of a big effort. At Royal Ascot, Green Sense came out, won the pre-Robert de Papin when she was disappointing in the Albany. So, there could be some substance still to that form. Very exciting horse, but that was maybe a minor step backwards than it was forwards, because she made heavy weather of that.
In the film, I thought in the Friday, Cinderella's Dream beat in January as well. The right horses came to the fore, I would say. Even Il Malka, I thought, ran pretty well. What did you think of it? Like, is there a chance that maybe if we see these horses again against each other, that form could be reversed, or did the kind of best horse win?
We kind of saw that with the third Crimson Advocate beating Cinderella's Dream at Royal Ascot. So there's not really a lot between them. I don't think. Just Godolphin, Newmarket, they just seem to shine there. And Cinderella's Dream is a pretty healthy strike rate, 8 for 12. And maybe the kind of easier track and having the better track position there, it usually pays to be handy at Newmarket. At Ascot, you can kind of get run down a little bit, which happened in the round course. So the straight course kind of helped. And she bagged that kind of far rail, which was generally the place to be all week. So fended off January. He's a good 3-year-old, probably not one of the better Aidan O'Brien 3-year-olds, but a consistent kind of horse that's gradually on the upgrade. That's placing in these kind of races in Group 1 company all the time. So repelled her quite well, and the work back from the Philly Mares Breeders' Cup turf with Cinderella's Dream now, and Triangle won better than she did there in America, and I think that's going to be pretty much the plan.
Into Saturday, just again, it was a kind of good day on Saturday. There was a few nice winners, but I want to start at Ryan's Bell. Obviously, a smart 2-year-old winning for Richard Hannon. I thought this was a very nice performance.
It was. Again, I thought it was a lot of muddling races on the Saturday due to the nature of the track.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that horse could have used its kind of initial experience outing to really win that. Could go places. And again, you'll learn more when she's up in grade.
And then we saw you finally get More Thunder won, but it was a hard watch and a hard result, but got the job done. It's a horse with a lot of talent, clearly. Just finally get the luck on its side.
Well, I think that would have won the July Cup.
Okay.
to be honest. I think he's that good. I think the July Cup was that bad, but I mean, he's come from 13. He's gone. He's been held up the other side of the stalls to go to that far rail that was there all the time. Held up. Get odd trouble passage in Alto. Last year's winner, who's dream dropped in the weights, is the only one that can go with him, and he's just got there on the line. And he didn't go quick, which is unusual for a handicap, which again didn't help More Thunder. He needs a true pace. He's still pulled out of the fire. And he's taken an age to pull up, and it's definitely going to be group company next. It seems, he's in the Lennox. Goodwood might be tempted to go there. They've got the same owners, get Never So Brave, who won the Summer Mile that weekend at Ascot. So, and the way the calendar is now, you have to wait a little bit for, I think, 6 furlong Group 1s now. It's kind of your 7 furlong ones. It's the Lennox, and you've got the Hungerford. They're Group 2s, and you've got the Group 1 City of York. So there's not a lot there really for specialist 6 furlong horses. I think both of the horses that I mentioned, they're More Thunder, Never So Brave, can go 7. So I mean, More Thunder's campaign's a middle distance horse for Michael Stout, basically, really. So what he's doing over 6 is quite remarkable. But I mean, as William Haggis alluded to, straight after that race, he'll be a better horse in a better race with better pace to aim at. Which I think the fact that he said that straight away suggests that maybe they should have kept him in the July Cup and ran there, because I think he'd definitely been top 3. I think he probably would have won it. But yeah, I think he's definitely a horse going places, and what he would, I'm not sure he would want soft ground though. And the thing is, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he was in these kind of Haydock Sprint Cup races at the end of the season and Champion Sprint if he got reasonable enough ground. I do think he can make an impact in group company. And as I thought at Royal Ascot, I think he's a 110 horse. And if you're a 110 horse, you're going to win Group 1 sprints in this country.
Yeah, I think you're right with that. We then obviously the Bet 365 mile handicap, 5th column beating Bedouin Prince. You got it right. It was one of those races, though, that I think both of these are going to improve.
Yeah, I think Bedouin's story is probably a kind of archetypal Charlie Appleby, Godolphin, William Buick, Boys in Blue, Newmarket horse. You get them all the time, and I think he's kind of a specialist there, and he shapes like that. So he's definitely going to nick something before the season's out. I think his mark looked high enough. I think he ran pretty well. In 5th column, I think always travelled quite nicely. And again, I think he would have benefited from a stronger pace. They didn't go quickly again. He was challenging a bit away from the action as well. Still won fairly snugly. And I've said that I think he is their Goslin's kind of handicap project for all these big places, and he might go Golden Mile at Goodwood. If not, the Cambridgeshire will probably be there at Newmarket, just another furlong up, probably a higher tempo. You probably see him to best effect there with just a little bit of cover again. But yeah, he won his side of the Britannia, and he was unlucky in the draw, and the draw didn't stop him at Newmarket because there wasn't enough. But the drawback again was he's a few runners, there wasn't a lot of pace, and he still overcome a kind of poor tactical scenario to win, a bit like More Thunder did. So I thought those two performances were far more exciting than any of the group races we saw.
What did you think of the superlative? We've seen some really good horses come from that in the past. I think there's 2 or 3 that are maybe promising for the future. Sabah Desert beating Italy, Wild Desert was there as well. Again, way too early to kind of think of guineas and things like that. But I mean, you're 14, 16 and 20s for all 3 for next season for the 2,000 guineas. So I think we know that there's 3 potential good ones here. It's just who's the best.
In this.
Okay.
I was disappointed in this. I was disappointed in pretty much all of the novice races at Newmarket. I thought Italy was the biggest of them. Ian O'Brien kind of warned pre-race that he would need it, and he's a big rangy horse and they need to fill out his frame. But that he was staying on second. He was a bit unlucky. He messed about with it. He looked the most forward, but they went pretty crazy there early on a little bit. He's seen it outright. You'll probably get a better horse on softer ground and a more conventional track at Doncaster in the Futurity.
Mm-hmm.
He looks a stare. I'd be surprised if he's a Guineas horse. It's maybe more of a Derby type, but looking at him, he needs to fill out his frame quite quickly and balance out, because moment. He looks like a kind of big kind of flat track bully of a horse. But I think he's probably got a lot of potential. The winner obviously was pretty unfancied in the market. Still did it quite well enough, and the Godolphin way of going at things is he'll go Dewhurst, won't he? So, he might take in the national stakes at the Curragh, for instance, first. And, he's knuckled down one well, but I mean, they were all kind of veering into each other. And, I think the inconsistency of how they water that track didn't help them at all either. I think there's no natural racing line there. It's a horrible place to watch a race. There's just no convention to it, and they all kind of wander around, and there's no kind of racing line. I mean, the Bunbury Cup, the two that dart clear are down the rail, and then the July Cup, half an hour later, the horse that's running alone on the opposite side completely wins it, quite easily. It's pretty bizarre watching from a neutral point from afar, because you can't really get a line into it. And I think you treat all that kind of form over the weekend with a massive degree of caution. And Italy as well, second. The maiden that he won, where everyone was waxing lyrical about, the second get beat at air at 2-13 in a maiden.
Yeah.
And was second in the Chesham. So, I mean, it doesn't really speak volumes of the Chesham form. It doesn't speak volumes of Italy's form. So, while I think they're all going to progress and they've all got fancy entries and they'll certainly know something, I wasn't taken by any of them, and I certainly wouldn't rush you back any of them for a classic next season at the moment, particularly the prices you've quoted about 12, 14, 16s, 20s.
10-1 Derby for Italy.
Well, yeah, New Zealand came out last weekend and looked better than any of them in the Derby. I'd rather back that. That was a maiden, and race at the Curragh and Irish Oaks weekend. I mean, I thought that, for instance, I think there's a lot more potential there and a lot of stuff to build on there than any of these at Newmarket. I thought a lot of it was poor. I think the winner was probably the one to take out of it if you want to look at a Guineas, and maybe the second for a Derby. But you've had a good roll of honour in that race, and I don't think that was kind of up to scratch. They could obviously leave it massively behind mitigating circumstances, but I initially I wasn't very impressed with it.
I think I know where your kind of thoughts were in the July Cup. Like, obviously Richard Hughes winning with no half measures with Neil Callan on board. A couple of horses disappointed here that were well fancied. Notable Speech was backed off the boards. The likes of Whistle Jacket, Symbol of Honour, Flora Bermuda were really disappointing. It wasn't the best race, was it?
That was dire by Grade 1 standards. Dire, I mean, the sprint division isn't great, but and a lot of main protagonists didn't fire, but new teams can do sort of American affair, at Royal Ascot, it gives opportunities to others, and you've got to be there to seize it, and no half measures was the one that seized that, and very hard to find. 66-1 probably didn't do herself justice in the market, because she was kind of being highly tried at 5 furlongs when shaping as if 6 furlongs would be better. She was a bit more unexposed there. And another bone of contention with the July course at Newmarket was that every single time was outside standard, and it was given good to firm, and no half measures get quite a lot of form with digging the ground.
Mm-hmm.
It just isn't good to firm ground.
No.
And for a Group 1 to have that in the form book, it's just ludicrous. It's inaccurate, it's misleading, and it's just unacceptable. For a Saturday card, a Group 1 card, to have it so badly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The winner could progress to different things. 6 furlong races. I mean, again, it's your Haydock Sprint Cups, your champion sprints. You might go over to France, for instance, for a few things there, but she does look like a six furlong kind of horse. I know a lot of them. Big Mojo in second, for instance, keeps running a good race all the time. The Commonwealth Cup form is being well advertised. I've had the 4th win, I've had the 7th go pretty close as well, and higher, in decent group company. So yeah, at least that form's working out, and maybe the younger sprinters can definitely mount a challenge. But yeah, it was quite a fitting end to kind of run-of-the-mill Saturday day. For a Group 1 card, it was pretty disappointing. But she could improve. 105 rated going into it, probably hit 110, 110 tops, I'd imagine, and you'll see where it goes. But I know I'd be I'd be pretty surprised if she won another Great One again. But they keep sharing them out, don't they? Unless something comes and kind of commands top spot, it's gonna keep happening really. So all your kind of high 100 horses, low 110 horses are just going to keep spending them out. And Flora Bermuda excuse, hard race at Royal Ascot, hard race before that.
She got a bang as well, I think.
Yeah, and yes, some of them are write-offs. At the start, and you could be badly drawn as well, and not get the rub of the green. So yeah, a messy race and an unsatisfying one as well, I think.
We'll go to Ireland last weekend for the Oaks Day, where we saw a couple of decent horses. You mentioned a maiden New Zealand beating Isaac Newton. I was more taking it with Isaac Newton, to be honest.
Yeah, the winners have won. It's picked by a stable jockey, and it just has a lot more to offer, and the pedigree's getting a bit better. The second's going to improve as well. He's just got so many options. But I would rather look at these kind of once maiden winners at the moment rather than these early group performers. For instance, I would say Gustad's Miles better than Superlative form, and things like that. So there was one. True Love was very good.
Yeah, she was.
It's like that. The Queen Mary form coming together a little bit. She can get 6, and she'd have plenty of options. Free Mornay, Chiefly Park, the Phoenix.
Was Breeders' Cup mentioned? Did I see?
Probably you have to consider it, given how quick she is. But it's well in the season for that, and she might be a bit better than that kind of level. If they kind of generally if they view her as a classic project, they might tend to skip it. But the Breeders' Cup, juvenile sprint. So I think that would be fine for her as well. But that's a long way to that for a juvenile, and you've got the Phoenix, the Chiefly Part in the morning in between, and that one of those three will probably be where she'll go. She showed speed at 5 and 5 furlongs at Royal Ascot, win the Queen Mary, and then at 6 again. She kind of pulled away from a stablemate that was reasonably well fancied as well. And that's a great thing, Brian, with the New Zealand race as well. You'd have decent yardsticks from his A to B team and B to C team as well. So he's got lots of options, and whether he kind of splits them up, even if some of his kind of top 2-year-olds are ruled out at the moment.
Arizona Blaze obviously made up for the Commonwealth Cup. I think obviously a horse that's going places. Was that a good sign for the Commonwealth Cup form? You've obviously mentioned it is looking good, but Arizona Blaze, do you think that's a good performance?
Yeah, it was good. Unexposed horse that wins at best track position, beat Magira, who won the Temple Stakes where American Affair was placed in it. So it is a level of sprint form that you're looking for. It's a good second. The Commonwealth Cup. The 4th has also won since, and I think the 7th has won since as well. So there's good signs. Big Mojo was 7th, didn't get a clear run, but was second in the July Cup. So it is working out reasonably well. But given the level they've got to get to, the seniors, it really should be working out well. Particularly if you're getting the odd allowance here and there as well. So, yeah, they were definitely touting Breeders' Cup at the end of the season with their Arizona Blaze. That was for sure. And the second, I think, if she gets her act together in the stalls with Bagheera, I think she can go pretty high. Highly rated, I think she'd be pretty exciting in a Nunthorpe potentially. I think she's all speed. That downhill section, likes a Haydock, York, things like that. Goodwood will be too quick a turnaround now, but those kind of fast 5s like that downhill where you can go free rolling, but she's got to stop missing the start.
Let's go into the Irish Oaks, where Mini Hawk won at odds of 2-11, Callum, but it wasn't this mesmerising performance that a 2-11 shot should show.
Yeah, if you look up workmanlike in the dictionary, I think you get this. It was boring race, one at a boring a boring price. You'd struggle to watch it, in your back garden. Just nothing really to really be excited about. She was comfortable on top as once she get by, but she took some time to pick up the run up, and they're wanting to go that route with her. I just don't see it. She's nowhere near quick enough for
I don't think so,
or good enough. And I would be going Ledger route. I really would be.
Okay.
I think she's a ledger horse. I think she's a bit of a stayer. I think she's one of these kind of usual kind of Aidan O'Brien grinders. It doesn't quicken, too effectively. And with them going Lambourn, seem to be going Ledger. I think I would flip them now. I would actually like to see this. I'd like to see Lambourn running the King George. It'd be trained as a Ledger horse. It's trained as an Arc horse actually instead. And I would rather see Mary Hawk maybe try and go Ledger. Because I just don't think she's fast enough. She got to Whirl and grinded her down by more kind of intimidation rather than ability, I would say, on the day. Bigger horse unit, kind of leaned into it as well, muscled her out of it, and kind of did the same here. Ranged up, got there, and once headed, asserted okay. The tempo of the race wasn't great. It was pretty. It was probably comfortable for her, and the owners were at pains to kind of say that she would have done greater pieces of work at home, but she takes her time to pick up, and you won't get away with that in better races.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get found out, and if she's in an arc, and with all the allowances that you get, it might help her, run fifth or sixth or something like that. You won't win, what I mean. And it's really hard for 3-year-old fillies to win an arc as well. Not easy. A lot of top notchers have tried and failed as well. So she's done the double. She's beat what's put in front of her. And the Irish Oaks was a small step back, but her backers will say, well, she didn't really need to get too serious, and that's true, but it wasn't impressive. And although World's kind of Frank Noakes from the Kilpanna, just don't think the fillies are off a great level at the moment, and they're kind of beating each other a little bit as well. So interesting what they do. Do they take in the Yorkshire Oaks or not? It's the usual port of call, 1 mile 4 over there, galloping track York. She should enjoy that. It's a conventional test, and that might test a little. But I think she'd be highly vulnerable to a horse with some class and some tactical speed. So yeah, she's done what she needed to do, done the double, but not to a great deal of fanfare, and you can see why. So I think she's just maybe a bit slow for open Group 1s against some horses.
The other race on Saturday at Curragh was the Curragh Cup, was won by Al Riffa, who was third in the Melbourne Cup last year. Callum, can he go again for that? Do you think that's the plan?
Yeah, I mean, possibly. I mean, it opens up kind of avenues for him in a steer now. I don't think he really is a Melbourne Cup type. I think he could have had an obvious class edge over his rivals, and the trip was kind of irrelevant, really. He's probably more of a kind of mile and a half, mile 6. I think maybe 2 miles will be stretching it over true gallop for him, and maybe be bumping into classier types in the Melbourne Cup. But Joseph O'Brien likes the race. They could go there. His mark will probably assume be quite in the high side, pushing 110. So he'd have to lumber a lot of weight and acclimatise. I think it would be tricky for him. I would maybe rather kind of keep him at home and maybe have the odd kind of go at a Group 1. He ran well in the Hardwick second. He's always going to be one of those horses where I think whatever trip you run at him, when he bumps into a good one, he's going to get found out. So I think they need to be incredibly canny with his placing of him, but doing that up to 1 mile 6 gives him a chance. So I think Irish Ledger would probably be his race next. I think that would be the logical one. Beat that out quite well on what would probably be softer ground. Then I think that would up maybe a tilt at the Melbourne Cup. I think that's where you'd know with him, because you definitely get a better rival in the Irish Ledger than you did in the Curragh Cup, because Aidan O'Brien will invariably run probably a decent horse in that race.
Any other kind of horses that have caught your eye over the past couple of weeks before we get into some exciting races coming up?
I have to mention one at Ayr on Monday. Almarek was mightily impressive, and he's now 5-2 for the Stewards Cup. If he gets a bit of soft ground, a small penalty there, £6 penalty, I think he would get. If he gets in off 96, I think it'd be pretty hard to stop because he looked very, very good. He definitely was like a 100 horse, and to get 2-1, I think 5-2 for him to win that on that day in the Gold Cup trial was steal of the century at the local, to be honest, because he was his head and shoulders clear of them. Got beat by a Gosling horse that was rated 108. Spy Chief I think ran quite well in July Cup, 5th or 6th, and you've got this horse running here off 90 in a Class 3 handicap against pretty moderately exposed horses in the main. And he put them away quite well, drawn in the wing, and it was very impressive. He has an Haydock Sprint Cup entry as well, so he's another kind of exciting haggis youngster going forward, and he's definitely one to note. And out of all the Mondays that I've been to in here where they have their old kind of July Mondays, he's been without doubt the outstanding horse to watch.
Okay, let's move into Saturday. We've got a busy week coming up, but we'll start with the King George and Queen Elizabeth Stakes at Ascot. Looks to be a rematch at the moment between Jan Brigol and Calandagan. What do you think at the moment? Like, obviously, it's way too early, but we're recording this on Wednesday. The show's going to go out on Thursday. At the moment, you've got Calandagan at 7-4, Jan Brigol it's 15-8. Kilpana's in here at 4s. Rebels Romance 6-1, 12-1 Lamborn. I'd be quite interested to see what you think of that. Where are we at with the King George this year?
I think Lamborn's going voltage, so I don't think he's running. But the only thing this race misses is a good 3-year-old, and I think he would add a lot to it because it's a very good race. Because you've got Kilpana, who's a very good filly. Rebels Romance is a solid globetrotter that's won at this level, and Jan Brugel and Calandagan, very high class Group 1 horses, as they showed that when battling out Epsom in the Coronation Cup. Calandagan's come out since and finally won his Group 1 at St Cloud in very good fashion. It's got to be said, and he was confidently back that day. And I think he's just about the rightful favourite. I think Ascot here, I think it might tip things his way. A bit more conventional track might be in his favour. He'll probably get a maybe shade quicker ground, which should suit and maybe a little bit more than Jan Brugel. And the presence of Rebels Romance in here in Kilpana means that it won't just be kind of Jan Brugel versus Calandagan for the final 3 furlongs and see what happens. There are other horses there that could soften him up. Continuous is in there as a pacemaker yet again. So it's going to be truly run, but that will suit Rebels Romance and Kilpana as well, who do like to be ridden pretty handy. So this could actually set up brilliantly for Calandagan if he just sits off it and allows maybe Rebels Romance to have a more sustained go at Jan Brugel, and then Kilpana comes and has a go and he just swoops across the outside and wins quite comfortably late and runs them down. So I can envisage a tactical scenario here where it will really work out well for the French horse, and the French have a good record in this recently.
Mm-hmm.
And he seems to be improving. Well, I think just think Epsom caught him out, combination of bumping into a hardy opponent, the trip, early season, the track, the ground's a bit tacky. He just found them out. There's no reason to say that it might again, when Jan Brugel could beat him, but Ian O'Brien's record in this, 1 for 22 recently.
Yes.
Highland Reel, the only winner, 2016.
That's what I was just about to ask you, but it was the last Aidan O'Brien horse to win.
And he was comfortably, not comfortably, but he was definitely the form pick going into that. And he's had high profile disappointments in this, and I see Jan Brugel, he might fall into that category again, where he might just get slightly found out here. You can make cases for all 4 in Rebels Romance, very solid, won the Hardwick quite well, was 3rd in this last year, where him and Augusta Rodan were blunted by the ridiculous watering before the day, where again they messed up the ground, and we've had 2 Saturdays already of ruined ground and high profile meetings, so we don't want that again.
Mm-hmm.
So they were kind of done in. It was meant to good to form. It was riding more like good to soft, and it caught them out badly. So they need Rebel Romance needs quick ground. Calandagan's better in quick ground. Kilpana's the one that comes back into if it's soft, and she's probably the one that's been trained for this the most from the outset. So Well, she's got a bit to find and probably is clear fourth favourite in the form book. You can see why she's getting support, because she might be the one, bit like when Pile Driver won it, she might be the one that wins this because she's better mapped out for it and gets the ground. So I would be in weather watch, but I think if it would be good or good to firm, I would back Calandigan. And if it was good to soft, I might chance Kilpanna.
Okay.
Or worse. But out of the four, I think Rebels Romance he's just seven years old. Maybe he's a bit limited and vulnerable to these 3-4-year-olds here. But he's probably the one that's most reliable to run its race, the way that he is. So I think it'll be a very good watch, and I think you can make claims for all four of you. Jan Bruegel very solid, and if he could be the kind of the new kind of iron horse where they just don't get past him. You saw it in the Prince of Wales where they overdid the tactics in the week in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think something similar might happen to him here if they kind of not necessarily overdo it, but because of the quality of opponent that will be trying to have a crack at him. You're not going to have a pacemaker here with just one horse to beat, like they did in the Coronation Cup. It was either going to be Jan Bruegel or Calandigan all the way there. You've got other horses at play that can take him on earlier, and that will help the French horse. So I think he's the rightful favourite, and I think I would probably back him at 15-8 on faster ground around Ascot at this trip. But if it turns on the softest side and they overwater it again, I think Kilpanna could run a big race as well. So that's at the moment where I'm leaning. It's going to get very tactical, and it wouldn't shock me if any of the four won at the top of the market.
Yeah, it's one of those races that I think it is just going to be wait to the day and have your bet late. And I really think there's cases to be made for all four. I'm with you in Calandigan. I think he's probably the best horse. It's just if things go his way, I wouldn't be worried too much about the ground. Obviously, one last time in soft ground. I imagine that was obviously lesser opposition, but I think he's the best horse, and I think Calandigan is the one at the moment. Any other kind of horses in at Ascot on Saturday? You've got the kind of Princess Margaret Stakes. You've got the Valiant. Anything in them jumping at you at the moment?
No, not really. I mean, the international handicap will be interested to see if they go, because they've got some high class horses there that might be taken out.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like the likes of Billy Joe of Mick Appleby's is pretty interesting in that race, and keep an eye on the Stewards Cup, because he went there and then went Stewards Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Goodwood quite quickly, so a lot of them could go back to back and run quite quickly. So if anything that shapes well in that race that drops back and trip could run well in a Stewards Cup as well. So it's kind of the time where these kind of handicap blocks reveal themselves is usually the start. Right now, Royal Ascot and then into here, you usually kind of get them all developing. Billy Joe's one of those kind of course and distance timing kind of specialists, and he's definitely on a similar mark to where he was as well.
Just before we get into Goodwood and Galway, will you be keeping an eye on the racing league, or is it a nonsense to you?
No, I'm not a fan of it. I mean, I've got a long kind of history with the racing league. I think this is its 5th year tomorrow, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I think looking into it this year, I think it's, in fairness to it, I think it's better balanced out. I think there's kind of more kind of balance between trainers and jockeys. The problem is the team element in racing really doesn't work. It's very individualist in the owners, and I don't think people really care about the point system. And it's really for kind of them. It's this one's really difficult to be enthused about, but it's good prize money and good competitive racing where you're going to get 12 runners most of the time. You're going to get 5 to win the field most of the time, and something different. I don't think it's harmful, but I don't think it enhances anything. I mean, I'm pretty ambivalent towards it. I actually gave it a real good go 3 seasons ago, and where I kind of really did look at the teams, and it was going quite well. Called the team element. Wales in the West, I think, won it, but I was livid with the jockey element, because Safi Osborne won it with like she had 4 won a ridiculous kind of treble on the last day, and Sean Levy couldn't ride because he had a ridiculous suspension that was overturned the day after, so he was going to win it. And I backed to be top jockey, he was definitely going to win it hands down. He could have turned up and run like one race and be fifth, and he would have won it. And he was denied by this ridiculous plot Osborne treble that nobody won, and Sean Levy missed out in the kind of I think a decent kind of bonus, like a 10 grand winning jockey bonus, and I was kind of I was kind of livid with that because I think it was like 16-1 at the start. And he rode like a trail in first day, and he was like odds on for the rest of it. And then last year, I think it was something creative. It was a good kind of 4,000-1 plus dot treble. Safi Osborne rode in the last night to thwart him, and he was out because he was suspended for something. I think it was a wrongful kind of suspension over a kind of urine sample, and that was me done with it instantly there because I thought this is now cliquey garbage and nonsensical and fixed. but of course it kind of isn't to a degree, but he's just kind of plotted it because it's the most well organised team. But it's 6 different tracks. I mean, Scotland and Ireland teams, they're not really Scottish and Irish, so they're not really there. But at least there's a bit better balance it this year than the normal. It also clashed with Goodwood very badly, and York as well very badly quite often, and your top jockeys would just disappear for those 2 weeks, and that kind of the normal schedule completely just undermines it. So it's trying to find its own voice and place in it, and it looks a bit more settled this year. And I have bet in it sometimes as well because sometimes there is okay races and okay horses that are mapped out for it for sure. There's been subsequent group winners coming from it as well. So is the way it's kind of targeted. Is it for most people? Probably not, and I'd be still in the probably not camp.
Let's go into. We'll start with Galway. We'll not cover every race at every meeting. We'll cover the big races, just a kind of rough idea at this point, and maybe kind of like any race, any horses that maybe catch your eye either. Maybe coming into the week, Galway we'll go to first. We'll get the Galway Plate on Thursday. It's going to be Nürburgring leading the market in 9-2, going for success, and it won it last year, obviously, and was a bit of a tricky horse in terms of kind of like as a novice chaser, like obviously, sorry, he won the hurdle last year. Sorry, Pinkerton won it last year. Nürburgring's a very hard race to follow. I'm just not sure at this point. 9-2, going for kind of history. I don't think a horse has won the Galway Plate and the Galway Hurdle one after the other, and he's not a horse I would fancy at 9-2 over further than what he is. I think this is going to be a big test at 2 miles 6 at the moment for him.
He's had experience as well, and in a track like that, a horse with some experience tends to win. I mean, I don't like 5-year-olds have a good record of it. 6-year-olds, I think the odd 6-year-olds win it, but it's mainly goes to kind of good or exposed 7-8-year-olds really, and he doesn't really kind of fit the profile. He's a course winner though. Won the Galway Hurdle easily. He's had a nice float up there in Killarney, winning odds on, pretty routine fashion. He's jumping is getting together, and he's already ran Alaska. So he's mixing between codes. He's probably an Ebor type horse as well. So he's mixing codes. Be a good target for him. His novice chase form's good. He was third in a Group 2, a Grade 2 at Punchestown recently as well. So back in November. So he's got some decent class. He ran well at Cheltenham Festival, won 4th. So yeah, it's not entirely beyond him, is it? 1-4-6, and you can see why he's top of the market. He's your obvious kind of default favourite, but I think he's short enough, and I think you have to kind of have to look to maybe try and take him on with something.
I've got one, trained by Willie Mullins.
That's normally a good start.
Blood Destiny. I could see running well. I thought he ran okay. He's had 2 kind of float ups over kind of May and June, but I thought he ran okay at Fairyhouse in really bad ground that day, where he was well beaten by Found a 50. St Sam was obviously second there as well. But there's definitely a good horse in him, and I think the more I kind of look at this, I think all he needs is just a wee bit of consistency. I think good ground is probably the the thing as well. Won that last race easily, where I think he did Banger Doyle to beat. I really think there's a good race in Blood Destiny, and I could see him being a decent prospect here. I think you can get about 16-1 at the moment. I wouldn't be against him at all at that price. Anything else for you? Kind of jumping out?
Yeah, he's got a chance. He just gets. He's a horse that I think a lot of people get suckered into. He gets beat at short prices, isn't he? He's just not quite. He's just. He seems to me to be a horse that's got some issues. Whether he's hard to train, he seems to be niggly race. He doesn't see out races. He hangs around, a little bit. And maybe he's just going to come into his own as a summer horse. He's rated 152. So he's obviously high class form. And if they get him right, he can definitely strike off that mark. So yeah, he's got a chance. And at least this time, I'm going to get a double-digit price at the moment. So he's definitely in the equation. Jazzy Matty coming, he'll step up and trip, shouldn't be a problem.
No.
Cheltenham Festival winner. He's only off £7 higher. He's definitely been the running, off that price. And an old friend, the golfer, has entered.
Yes, I see that. Yeah.
You'd want decent ground. There is a bit of rain in the air. He's a big price because I think he could bin off these kind of cross country bank races. He was stiff after the Punchestown Latouche Cup, which was patently too far from anyway. He didn't really enjoy it. I think they'll kind of maybe scrap the kind of cross country route with him now, even though he was fourth at the festival, Cheltenham Festival, so he's got some aptitude for it. Tried to run him back to back, but he was stiff the next day at Punchestown, so he's had a nice layoff. He wants decent ground. He ran a screamer at Aintree, where it was my each wee bet of the year, and he landed it. I think it would have been a lot closer if he wasn't shafted at the start with one of those ridiculous start procedures that we had to endure in the spring. He was well back. He did well to get anywhere near the places. He finished staying on third, and this further trip, this kind of quirky 2 mile 6 furlong trip could really suit him. He was 7th or 8th in this a couple of years ago when Astray Meadow won it of Gordon Elliott's, and I just think maybe it's his time. He can pop up. His mark is just so exploitable, and he's definitely not out of form. And he's 25-1. I think that's interesting. And the other one I would back against the field right now, assuming that it's still decent ground as well, is Buddy One.
Mm-hmm.
Because Connections, Paul John Gilligan, they absolutely adore Galway and target it quite often. He's a course and distance winner. Okay, his jumping is kind of going to pot a little bit. That's why they reverted over hurdles. He's a good spin up Ballinrobe. He won a maiden there. That's probably mean that he's probably in decent heart enough. They've maybe kind of revitalised him a little bit, refreshed him for this. And off 145, his previous kind of group graded, high class graded efforts and kind of staying hurdles like that. If he puts in a good jumping round, he knows he like the track. He's definitely competitive on figures, and he can get 25s for him for a yard at target Galway with regular success. He's only 8. He's got a lot of back class horses that have won this with a lot of back class Hewick in recent years. It won't stop him. So I mean, the Golf and Buddy One and the 25-1 mark, I think each way are very appealing options right now.
Yeah, we'll go into the Galway hurdle, where we've got a few old favourites here who, particularly a kind of few 4-year-olds, I think are quite interested. Mr. Percy leads the market. Joseph's got the top 2, Mr. Percy and Put Your Hands Together. And Galway, Gotcha, Hello Neighbour, obviously, for Gavin Cromwell, Grade 1 winner at Leopardstown at Dublin Racing Festival. Lisa Cashel-Dale Lad, Jesse Evans. One I like, Blue Lemons for Willie Mullins. I think he's got a wee bit more than 137 up his bag and has had a wee bit of a prep for this. Thought his best form came at the kind of later stage of the season. Good ground seems to be the one he likes. I thought he didn't run great at Ascot, but it's probably not the kind of be all and end all for him. But I think he's maybe more to come off 137 over hurdles.
Possibly. I mean, Willie Mullins unexposed. He's got good form and soft. So
I've missed being able to say how good Willie Mullins is. Like, we've not done that in a while.
He's still firing winners in the flat, as well. I mean, you see how good Willie Mullins is every single day of the week, as far as I'm concerned. Well, Royal Ascot was a sacrificial lamb for another Willie Mullins horse, Ethical Diamond. There,
Yeah.
he went off mental at the front and finished 14th. So that was eminently forgivable and good to firm or a trip that's probably a bit too short. And yeah, he could bounce back. He said facile successes at Gowran Park and Fairyhouse, where they were pretty bad ground.
Very good at Fairyhouse when he won that with 7 lengths and jumped terrible in stages.
Yeah, and that's the concern. Where you won't get away with that in a competitive handicap, because if you hit one, you lose position. You're out of it. It wasn't a great race. All your better horses that day were at Aintree or at Cheltenham. And then between he get found out just down as well. He was well down the field, so a handicap might be his bag. Bit of a break. Willie Mullins could easily pop up if he takes his chance. Interesting Paul Tennant rides. If he got you further up the market, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
One at the top of the market, like most, was Mr. Percy. I think he's got this kind of could be anything profile of. He's won in the Curragh, on the flat where he beat good horses in Jabbar, Helvic Dream. That was a premier handicap. It was kind of hot race. He could have did that easily in the flat. Shows it's in good heart. Fairyhouse came out, won a Group 2. Beat You Ought to Know, beat Ballygunner Castle, beat horses that ran okay here, Wingmen, Joystick, and he did it quite well, and off levels from kind of nowhere, and in a manner that you think that's better than a 140 horse. He had kind of big handicap experience at Leopardstown at the Christmas Festival. We ran midfield. And for a very inexperienced horse, we'd absolutely clouted the second. He probably did well to run as well as he did, in a race where it was okay by that standards. Maxim was in there, Comfort Zone was in there. A lot of them were kind of like soft preps for a pair top. So I think he's quite exciting, and I think he's very, very unexposed for this. And I prefer him to put your hands together. Whose form after Cheltenham's going a little bit.
Yes.
It's gone a little bit south, and he's £11 higher. Tipperary probably was a float up for this, but there wasn't a great deal to glean from it. I thought he backed out of it a little bit. Aintree was a shade disappointing. So I think Mr. Percy would be the one. I think he's probably a better and more progressive horse and more unexposed, even though he's a year older. But I do think he's got this kind of like Nürburgring profile to him, where he can just improve out of all recognition and take this. The other one I like was an English horse, Willful of the Neils. If they come over and take their chance, is obviously he won a handicap at Ayr quite nicely. Leary, Maglack in behind, Kingston James, decent enough horses. That quite well. He was well fancied at Kelso where he pulled up. He went wrong in that in the big kind of handicap there. But Punchestown, he ran a blinder in second, and you feel he's just kind of building up to something, and that was maybe a bit of a sighter. A £5 hike for that, seems fair enough. And he seems to be a horse that's going steadily about the right way, and one that we've not seen a limit to. And then Neil's kind of target it fairly well. So he's around the 12-1 mark. They were the two that I kind of honed in on early doors.
Okay, let's go to Goodwood. We're going to cover the 3 Group 1 races, and I'll maybe ask you then just if there's anything else you like over the meeting. We'll start with the Goodwood Cup on Tuesday, where Illinois is looking to better his performance in the Ascot Gold Cup, where he was second behind Trawlerman. He's well fancied to do so here at 8-11. It's French Master, obviously, at 5-1. Jan Bruegel not going to go. Scandinavia, I'm quite interested to see what they do with him at 8-1. Sweet William, Military Academy, looks to be between Leighton O'Brien and John Gosden. But Illinois, where are we at with him? Do you think he is a decent horse, and do you think he can build on his second in the Gold Cup?
Yes, I expect him to win this. I expect him to win this. I thought he ran quite well in the Gold Cup, but he just didn't want 2.5 miles at that stage of his career, and he wants 2. And I think this is just going to be a better setup. There's rain in the air, but the ground doesn't bother him. It's one at Longchamp, soft. Ground will be fine. the presence of Scandinavia is a little bit disconcerting, I would say, if he comes here. You think you maybe go Gordon Stakes, something like that instead. He still might, but he has been cut and cut to a degree where you think they might run him. You'll get a stone. He'll get a stone as well. So his front runner style at Newmarket, would suggest. I think he was probably the most impressive young horse that I saw at Newmarket that day.
Yeah.
So turning out him quickly, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. He's still got a long way to go, but he'd be a player. French Master, as I liked, it's a handicap project to Royal Ascot. Again, he's getting there. This is going to be much tougher though, and he would have been fully primed for Ascot. He's won at Goodwood, but he looked a bit kind of gangly round there. I think Ascot is much more suitable for him. And even at Ascot, he ran halfway down the track. There's absolutely no way you're going to get away with that against Illinois. So I think while he's got raw ability, I think he might be the Illinois of what Illinois was to Trawlerman, and he'll be kind of an improving kind of type in behind that he can take the eye out for the future. And he's comfortably held Sweet William and Ascot form, and the rest are patently not good enough. Trushan needs a downpour to be of relevance. Might get it, but even still, he's maybe a bit long in the tooth for this. And Alriff is not going to turn up. I think Illinois will win this. And I think this will be his kind of first tentative step of eventually filling the void of Kip Ross and the O'Brien yard. Because I think in time, he'll get 2.5 as well. Just a bit too soon for him against a battle-hard opponent like Trawlerman. I think this is a good step for him. So, yeah, I think he'll win.
Let's go into the Sussex Stakes, where we will see the return of Field of Gold. He's 1-2 here to win as he steps into, obviously, his own against kind of older horses. Rosalian's there at 4-1. I just don't see a world where Rosalian gives Field of Gold £8 and beats him.
That's the issue, isn't it? And if a bit softer ground, it's probably going to help Field of Gold even more than Rosalian, who we know loves kind of fast rattling, fast ground. On his recent, on all his kind of last 4 or 5 runs. It's going to be difficult for him, and we know Rosalian needs to be played late anyway as well. So is Field of Gold going to slipstream Rosalian, or is Rosalian going to try and slipstream Field of Gold? And I think if you're Rosalian, I think you've got to be very brave and try and come very fast and very late, and have one crack at him. But what we've seen from Field of Gold the last 2 times is he just been away and gone quite quickly, and I think he showed more pace than he was given credit for in St James's Palace, where that Irish Guineas you're thinking, and indeed the British Guineas you're thinking, you'll be better at 10 furlongs, son. At Royal Ascot you're thinking, no, you can stay at a mile. He was that good. The only slight concern would have to be it's Goodwood. And
do we know who rides him as well?
Seems to be William Buick. Godolphin don't have anything in this, and I'd imagine it'd be him. The only kind of doubt is it's Goodwood, isn't it? He can get hard luck stories, he can get trapped in the rail, but even then, it wouldn't be a massive field.
No,
he shouldn't really find trouble, and barring him underperforming, he's definitely going to take this out, and he can actually make a case at 1-2 minutes early in the week. I think 4-7 was perfectly satisfactory because it will cut up, and Rosalian, it's a bit to prove, but he would have been primed for Royal Ascot, and he was, and I don't think he could produce anything that's going to be anything better than that, and even that effort I don't think will be good enough, and it's hard to see a world where Henry Matisse can get much closer, so it's definitely his to lose, and I think everyone will be very, very shocked if it doesn't happen. And you hope it doesn't happen. You want to see another very high class performance, but again, you want to see, this is the horse to follow this season.
Mm-hmm.
He's going the Kingman. We want stars in our sport, and he is shaping up to be one, without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move into the Nassau Stakes, where Whirl will take on See the Fire. It looks like we're maybe going to see Cinderella's Dream Bedtime Story. Estrange is in here as well. Whirl, I think you're quite excited about her.
Not here.
Okay.
Not here. Not here. No, I think she's again. With Minnie Hawk being workmanlike. The Curragh beat Kilpanna, had the run of the race. Probably more of a suitable trip. And just around here, yes, she could maybe kind of shotgun round a little bit. But I think she might be shot by a better price stablemate in Bedtime Story, because I think she's tailor made for this race and tailor made for this for a long, long time. Unlucky in France the last twice. French Guineas needed the run, but still made eye-catching late gains. The draw beater in the French Oaks, where she had no chance in the car park, but still was a clear second and was well back that day. Just the impression she gave at Royal Ascot as a 2-year-old in that Chesham Demolition was out of this world. And I think Worrell's a kind of solid Hartley type. I don't think she's a top-notcher. I do think that Bedtime Story could be, and at the price is 6-1 against 2-1, I'd rather chance that. I think she's also more tactical versatile. I don't think Worrell can bully this lot as much. And I don't think she'll be quick enough really to burn them off. So I think Bedtime Story can come late and nab her. See the Fires, interesting, but her best form seems to be at York. It wasn't really the plan to go Prince of Wales as where she was a good third. That was kind of a late decision. And while she ran wellness as a 3-year-old last year, but it was kind of the making of her, giving weight to some useful Ian O'Brien 3-year-olds around here, and you just get the impression that she might be a bit better at York. So she's reluctantly passed as well, and I think the rest have kind of plenty to find. So I do prefer Bedtime Story out the front three in the market. Cinderella's Dream's got to be a doubtful runner, I'd have to say.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, so it's shaping up to be a really good week at Glorious Goodwood, or do we call it Guitar Goodwood now? What do we call it? Because the Glorious Goodwood thing was good, but now you don't really hear that word anymore. It's now Guitar, isn't it?
Yeah, sponsored by Guitar, but it's still Glorious Goodwood.
Glorious Goodwood. Anything you like over the week? I've got one that I maybe like in the Lily Langtree that I was going to throw at you here. I just need to get the prices up before I go. I think Shaha could run pretty well for the Gosden team here. I think she potentially could be very overpriced at 3-1. I think she's got a lot of improvement. And I was second behind the Strange, so we'll maybe get an idea on the form. She was outclassed by a Strange, but I certainly think she's one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, progressive horse without doubt. And big chance if she takes a run. I mean, I'd imagine that it'd be pretty much Scenic to beat, won't it?
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Yeah,
who pushed a Strange quite close as well at Haydock subsequently. So yeah, I think they seem to be the two that most would focus on. But on Saturday, I'm happy to wait a little bit for that.
Yeah. Anything you like for Goodwood over the week?
Yeah, King George Guitar Stakes, the sprint. I think Asfoora is probably one of the best bets of the meeting at 5-2. Several reasons why. I thought a run in the King Charles, which was backed into 72, surprisingly, at Royal Ascot in 5th by 2 lengths, was perfectly reasonable. Just that lack of run told on her at the end in the closing half furlong. Still not beaten it far, but she didn't have a prep run. She did have a prep run the season before when she won it, and won it quite well, and kind of exposed the sprint division for what it really is, with a decent performance. She still went that year to Goodwood, carrying a penalty where she got nutted in the line by Big Mojo. Now, Big Mojo's in here again, but she won't be giving her £5. Mm-hmm. She'll be coming in here a fresher horse. Second run's normally better than her first. Certainly it was last year. And she's not getting anything to make up. And she's just got so much more tactical speed than anything else in this race. The third favourite Time for Sandals. So yeah, it's Commonwealth Cup form's working out well, but 6 furlongs at Royal Ascot it's a totally different bag to 5 furlongs at Goodwood. Where you're rolling downhill. You need speed. It's the trip's less. It's a more speed favouring track. Well, Ascot's a stiff finish. It's totally different. And Frosted Dawn, she's quality. The rest are patently not good enough. They're all below 110 mark. And none of them are in the league of the top 2. And I think Asfoora would beat Big Mojo all day long. Big Mojo's had a run in the July Cup. That was a big effort that might take out of him. he was well beat, and then he was an okay seventh, but that was over 6 furlongs. So you're thinking, well, he's becoming more of a 6 furlong horse now. The only genuine Group 1 5 furlong horse in the race is Asfura, and if you think that she'll be fit and primed, and I think she will, she can handle soft ground. She could blitzes because miles quicker. It'd be like watching him in Batash win it potentially, even to a lesser extent. But she is by far the classiest and quickest horse in this race on a going day, and I think this is probably her going day. I think she might have been more trained for this than Royal Ascot because it's a different prep. So which is a bit odd because in Group 2, Group 1, maybe they'll just get caught behind a little bit. She had a run in Australia, but it just wasn't quite enough to acclimatise her and get to grips with what happened at Royal Ascot in time. I think she'd come forward from that, and if she does come forward from that, she'll win this. She might even not need to come forward from Royal Ascot. The recent and behind's poor. She handles soft. She's won soft in Australia, so I wouldn't be overly concerned. Obviously, you prefer quicker the better, but I wouldn't be disheartened if it turned soft either. But I think you could see her win this by 4 or 5 lengths.
Okay, so a big vote for Asfura.
I think she'll go off 74 on the day.
Okay, and that's a good price if she does. Mate, I want to thank you very much for joining me this week. Obviously, going to be a busy week next week. We'll maybe touch base again, maybe around about the Ebor, around about that kind of week. So, best of luck next week at Goodwood and Galway, and thank you very much as always.
Yeah, and the King George as well. So yeah, nice couple of weeks as well.
Yeah, and to all of yours, thank you very much as well. We'll see you all soon.